It's Fate Day in Midstrand, a small, nondescript village in the back end of a green and pleasant continent. Lies across a river, a bridge, and today there are banners and festivals, and Ethedwy, the young halfling boy, has been sent out with a little money in his pocket um, to buy bread and fruit and provisions for the place that he calls home. And the lady who has been largely responsible for his upbringing, Gledwyn, a halfling woman, has sent him and told him to return as quickly as possible. But Ethedwy is a 10-year-old boy with some money in his pocket and what appears to be a village fair full of rich strangers who've come to try their luck. And the temptation is too great. So Ethedwy spends the majority of his day um, trying to find fun in the village of Midstrand. And he wanders down to the bridge where he commonly spends his days, and he um, finds his friend, um, uh, um, a young kobold called Grud. And Grud the kobold is playing cards, find the queen, and he's hopeless. And Ethedwy watches him losing money hand over fist, as everybody always finds the queen. And and he laughs and then moves on. He moves into the centre of the village where there are lots of games. There's a collection of ladies having painting lessons around the village well in the centre of the green. And there's stalls and stands and people selling their wares. And the local butcher has this very unusual competition where he's playing Throw the Greased Pig. And he's got a suckling pig that he's covered in bacon fat and let loose in a paddock. And these well-heeled gentlemen are paying good money to try and catch this oiled pig as it's squealing and running away. And and the prize for being able to catch and throw this greased pig is that the butcher will slaughter the pig and you can have that for your prize. And Ethedwy watches this and sees the opportunity for some entertainment. So uses the provisions in the basket of shopping that he has and throws an apple into the crowd of painting ladies. And the pig, seeing the opportunity both for food and for escape, comes racing through the men and breaches the paddock wall and runs through the ladies, causing a muck and a chaos, and everybody's covered in mud. And while this is happening, Ethedwy liberates the fortunes of the stupid rich visitors to the fete, and sidles off back into the crowd, a richer halfling, although a few apples short of his original shopping list. And he returns to the bridge where Grud, his friend, is sitting dejectedly, completely out of money. And he says to Grud, he says, let's work together. We can see if we could double our money. And he starts playing Find the Ball Under the Cup. And he's drumming up a crowd, and he uses Grud as an unsuspecting customer. And Grud, not being the most intelligent kobold in Midstrand, is entirely unsuspecting. And Grud wins and is very happy because he's won his money back. And then he plays a couple more, and Grud wins again. And Grud has no idea that he's the stooge in this the campaign, but a crowd gathers, and Ethedwy balances beautifully the gambling so that he wins more than he loses and ends up doubling his money. and he sees the village guards starting to spend a little bit too much time paying a little bit too much attention to what's going on, and decides that time has come to head home. And it's getting late, and he knows well that he's going to be in significant trouble with Gledwyn. And he's meant to be home many hours before, so goes to the uh, back to the shops and buys some gin for Gledwyn, because he knows that's her favourite, in the hopes of getting into her good books and avoiding a punishment. And so he returns home, and he returns home to um, the brothel where he has grown up, and this is the Faded Cherry brothel in Midstrand. And he's grown up here since he was a young boy. He doesn't remember his mother, but he understands that she was a concubine, and he has no idea about his father at all. He was taken in by the ladies of the Faded Cherry, and Gledwyn, who no longer works and is more of a middle manager, um, has looked after him like a devoted aunt or grandma. And so he comes back to the Faded Cherry, and nods at Og, the half orc who mans the door, and goes in, and Gledwyn clips his ear, and he heads to the bar, and he makes her a gin cocktail, as he knows, and when he's stood behind the bar, notices that there is a person in a tailcoat and a top hat, a lady sat in the front parlour. And this is unusual at this time of evening. Most of the ladies of the house are still asleep, waiting for the evening's work, and he's certainly never seen this person before. And he gives Gledwyn her gin and asks, Who's that in the bar?" And Gledwyn's like, "I don't know what you're talking about, boy. Stop messing. It's bad enough that you're so late and you've only got 5 apples, rather than telling stories about people sitting in here. There's nobody there." And she disappears off to the kitchen with the bread and a gin cocktail. And so Ethedwy wanders over to speak to this strange person who stood in the bar. And she says, "Good evening, Ethedwy. I've been waiting for you. And I was impressed. How much money have you made today? Your gambling is quite skillful for one so young." And she tried to engage him in conversation, and Etherdwy is a 10-year-old, rightly suspicious of a woman who appears to know way too much about him. And then she says, "I know your mother. I could take you to her if you like." And Etherdwy is suspicious, and "Why can't you bring her here?" And the woman, tiring of the entertainment of a 10-year-old, clicks her fingers, and Etherdwy falls asleep. And she lifts him up as if he weighs nothing at all, and puts him in a carriage that appears at the side of the Faded Cherry. And the carriage rides off in the distance with Etherdwy inside. And Etherdwy then awakes some time later. He has no idea where he is, but he appears to be in a room on a bed. And the room has no windows, and there is a door in front of him. And he gets up and he opens the door, and he's in the middle of a dark wood in what appears to be a wooden cabin or a small shed. And in the distance, he can see an old man with a cane standing in front of a set of large iron gates with torches burning on either side. And so he walks down from the cabin towards the old man in front of the gates. And as he turns back, There is no cabin in the woods. There is simply an old man with a cane standing in front of the gate. And the gate opens, and they proceed through the gates. And on the other side of the gates, the forest is dark, and the trees taller than buildings and overhanging, and it's raining, and the mist is heavy, and they look back, and the gate has closed. And the sounds of wolves and creatures stirring in the woods seem loud, and the old man starts to hurry at a surprising pace for an old gentleman with a cane, and Ethedwy on his tiny halfling 10-year-old legs struggles to keep up. But Ethedwy's sure that he hears off to the right in the forest the sound of someone swearing. He hears a crash and the sound of swearing. The language he doesn't recognise, it's not a language he's ever heard before, but he's absolutely sure of the swearing, and the old man is hurrying away, muttering in his head about there is only badness in this forest, there is only badness and we must go. And so they head off down the cobbled, muddy path through the dark forest and the mists, away from the crash and the swearing in the wood.